Shaquille O'Neal is one of the greatest players in NBA history, a 15-time All-Star and a 4-time champion with 3 Finals MVPs and 2 scoring titles. He's also an extremely successful entrepreneur, known for giving tremendous amounts of money to charity and helping those in need. And on top of that, Shaq is hilarious and has a larger-than-life personality. He's a certified platinum rapper, a successful DJ, an actor, a TV host, a cop, and everything in between. But if you had to pinpoint his biggest flaw, it's easy to tell what it is. Shaq always had a fragile ego and has never responded well to criticism. And it's hard to find anybody more petty than him.
Why do you have to be petty all the time?
While his most famous beef happened during his playing days, his animosity towards Kobe was nothing compared to some of the beefs Shaq had after his retirement.
Sorry.
At one point, during his feud with JaVale McGee, the situation got so out of hand that even Shaq's mother had to intervene and tell him to chill out.
My mother pulled me aside last night and said, "Baby, take it easy on the young guy." So.
But JaVale McGee is just one of more than a dozen people that O'Neal has beefed with over the last decade, which brings up the question, how did Shaq become the biggest hater in the NBA? And to answer this question, we got to go back 20 years, to the start of the Diesel's beefing career, when he had his first big public feud. It was 2002, and Shaq was the best player in the NBA in the middle of his three-peat with the Lakers. However, throughout the 2002 season, he was dealing with a toe injury, after which the NBA Hall of Famer turned analyst, the great Bill Walton, said that Shaq should lose some weight and that it would help alleviate the pressure on the toe. Walton's advice made perfect sense, and he wasn't the only one saying it. But Shaq took offense to Bill's words, saying that Walton talks too much and that he's done more than Walton ever did in the league. Furthermore, when other media members asked him about the toe injury, O'Neal responded that he plans to keep playing through the pain until he becomes like Bill Walton, clearly alluding to his long list of foot injuries. In the next few years, the two great centers traded several barbs back and forth. When Shaq joined the Suns, Walton criticized the move for Phoenix because Shaq was often injured and had missed plenty of games the previous season.
So you're saying, bottom line, this is no win for Shaq?
I don't think he can win in this situation because what he did in Miami by saying, I can't play at all and now I'm going to win the championship, that is just absolutely ludicrous.
Diesel replied that Walton wasn't accomplished enough to talk about him.
His resume isn't quite good enough to speak on what I've done.
And that he's a hypocrite for commenting on his injuries.
You know, here's a guy who only played 1 or 2 seasons injury-free, and now he's talking about me being injured. So one thing I really hated is a hypocrite.
Walton didn't appreciate his comments, saying that
Shaq's arrogance is an insult to people who think.
The two Hall of Famers didn't see eye to eye for the next decade. And in 2021, when Bill Walton was named to the NBA 75th anniversary team, Shaq said that Walton shouldn't be on the team since he only scored 6,000 points in the NBA, something that O'Neal accomplished in his first 3 NBA seasons.
You know who I've always had a problem with? Bill Walton. Yeah, because he only got 6,000 points in the NBA.
However, after Walton passed away in 2024, Shaq made amends and admitted he was too sensitive.
Bill and I had an up and down relationship. It was up and down because I was sensitive. So a lot of times he would criticize me, and I was so mad one time I wanted to put hands on him. But I saw Bill last year at the Final Four. We hugged. He told me he just wanted to make me better. I'm definitely going to miss him. He was hard on me, and I'm glad he was hard on me.
And despite admitting his mistake, it was one of the rare times O'Neal turned the other cheek, because more often than not, instead of peace, he chose violence. O'Neal wasn't on speaking terms with Wilt Chamberlain while he was still alive. He didn't have a great relationship with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but those were all minor disagreements compared to his long-lasting beef with Dwight Howard. It all started in 2008, when Howard dressed as Superman during the dunk contest, accompanied by the Superman soundtrack, voiced by none other than Kenny Smith.
You win! You win, young fella! You win! Superman!
Shaq, who had already adopted the Superman moniker when he was the star of the Orlando Magic, perceived this as an act of identity theft. And from that moment on, O'Neal took every chance he got to bash Howard and undermine his accomplishments.
I'm just saying, if all you got to do is win a dunk contest to be called Superman, don't call me that no more. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
His criticism of Howard was mostly based on the fact that Dwight hadn't won a championship as he bounced from one team to another. But even when Dwight finally won a title with the Lakers, Shaq was back at it, criticizing him for celebrating too much.
So a lot of players on their little Instagram bragging like they were the reason they got the championship. I ain't gonna say no names.
You don't have to.
Sit your down. You didn't do nothing. Stop it.
But even when Howard retired from the NBA, Shaq was still mentioned in various podcasts as recently recently as 2024.
So would you say that beef is like Shaq and Dwight beef?
There you go. That got to be like a one-sided beef, because I ain't never had no beef with this man.
Showing that this beef will not be ending anytime soon. But even if you can't understand why Shaq doesn't see eye to eye with Dwight, no one can deny that how he treated JaVale McGee was borderline insane. It all started as fun and games during O'Neal's Shaq'd in a Fool segment on Inside the NBA, which often featured McGee and his mishaps on the court. But after a while, McGee got tired of the jokes, and Shaq always bashing him in his game. So he decided to respond on Twitter. And if we know anything about Shaq, it's that he doesn't like it when people clap back at him. So he was quick to throw insults and even threaten JaVale. This beef became the center of the sports world in the next few days, with Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant publicly defending their teammate.
I ain't know cops couldn't threaten civilians like that.
While the Warriors organization filed a protest to Turner Sports against Shaq. JaVale's mother, a Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, Pamela McGee, even requested that TNT fire Shaq for his bullying. But Shaq wasn't letting it go. He responded to KD and called McGee a bum once again. And it wasn't until his own mother intervened that O'Neal dropped his guard and decided to bury the hatchet.
Actually, you know what? My mother pulled me aside last night and said, "Baby, take it easy on the young guy." So you're going to see a new approach to me talking about these bums.
However, just 2 years later, Shaq started another feud with an NBA center, and this time the victim was Rudy Gobert. In 2019, Shaq mocked Gobert's tears during an interview when he was crying about getting snubbed from the All-Star game.
Sorry.
There's no crying in basketball. Maybe he was sad he didn't make it, but it happens like that sometimes. Not something you cry about. There is no crying in basketball. Man up.
I love
Get some icy hot on your face.
And the next time Shaq had something to say about Gobert, it was about money. I'm not going to hate, but this should be an inspiration to all the little kids out there. You average 11 points in the NBA, you can get $200 million. A few weeks later, during an episode of Inside the NBA, when Kenny Smith said Gobert was one of the best big men in the league, Shaq showed his distaste for the French center by nearly walking off the set.
You could possibly
This guy is one of the best.
Awesome. No, he ain't one of them. Stop it.
He's one of the best. Hey, the guy's a
Hey, stop it. No, he's not.
Barkley was quick to throw a jab at O'Neal, his favorite target, saying that
If you played against Rudy Gobert, he'd be blocking his shot. Her
know.
little kids in the front row, he'd be blocking that little slappy hook you shot.
after which Shaq posted a photoshopped picture of himself dunking on Rudy. But that was just the beginning. A few weeks later, during an interview with Rex Chapman, O'Neal admitted he was jealous that Gobert was making this kind of money, which was impossible for him to get during his era, despite being the best center in the NBA.
I'm jealous, but I'm happy. I'm jealous because I always thought that you had to have Michael Jordan superb type numbers to get that type of money. That's what it was in my era. But I'm happy for the kids. The reason why I bring up Rudy Gobert, people think I'm hating. It's not. He's a good big man. I'm used to dealing with great big men.
And with this comment, the beef was dormant for almost a year, until Shaq opened the door again, saying it would take him 3 minutes to score 12 points on Rudy.
I think Rudy Gobert can hold you to like 12 points.
12 points, yeah, in the first 3 minutes.
And finally, after 3 years, Gobert finally had enough, responding that he would lock up O'Neal if he played against him. But going on multiple podcasts can be a dangerous thing, and when Shaq did an interview for Complex, he called Gobert the worst player of all time.
Woke NBA player.
Oh, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy wasn't thrilled with that, so he responded. It's sad to see someone that has accomplished so much as you did, both in sport and business, still be triggered by another man's finances and accomplishments. I get the entertainment part, but unlike other folks, you don't need that stuff to stay relevant. And then Shaq made a guest appearance on Udonis Haslem and Mike Miller's OG podcast, where he doubled down on his Gobert hate.
You know, when I speak, I try to speak from facts. It may come out wrong. You may think I'm hating, and his comments, you're trying to stay relevant. I got 15 commercials. Keep talking about it. You're the defensive player of the year, but every scouting report I'm looking at, they targeting you.
It's safe to say that won't be the end of this beef, especially if Gobert falls short in the playoffs once again. And while Shaq's specialty seems to be talking down on NBA big men, O'Neal didn't limit his feuds only to centers. Over the years, he's been critical of Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, and Steve Nash, whom he didn't criticize directly, but he repeatedly complained that he shouldn't have won 2 MVPs over him in 2005 and 2006.
Was he true MVP or was he a sympathy MVP?
No, he was a true MVP.
Over me? Twice? Oh, get out of here. Hey.
And then came another type of beef, this time in a more traditional sense, a rap beef. O'Neal was long considered one of the best rappers among NBA players, with one of his albums reaching platinum status and another one certified gold. But then came Damian Lillard, with 4 albums of his own, and many people started saying that he was now the best NBA rapper ever, which didn't sit too well with the overly sensitive Shaq. In 2019, when he was promoting his album Big Dollar, Lillard was asked to compare his rap skills to O'Neal's.
I think I rap better than Shaq. I've heard Shaq stuff. I think he was viewed as Shaq though.
But
like,
I get what you're saying.
Like this Shaq. It wasn't like Shaq and Biggie. People wasn't looking at it like this is a real rapper. It was like that Shaq rapping. So of course it was a big deal.
Naturally, his comments weren't appreciated by the big fella, who released a Lillard diss song on Instagram, taking multiple jabs at the point guard. Take your time to respond. There's no hurry. You'll never be Westbrook, never be Curry. Or what's in your wallet? American Express or Visa? Talking like you're Bron, you ain't even Trevor Ariza. But Lillard took very little time to respond with a diss track of his own. Kobe won you those rings though. Nursery rhyme spittin', small car sittin', icy hot poster boy, TNT snitching. And while the world expected Shaq to continue the beef and record another diss track, O'Neal stayed silent, never responding back, and later claiming that there was never a real beef between them. No, it's not beef. It's a competition. Listen, I like Dame. He's a great player. But competition-wise, anything I do, you can't say you're better than me. We're cool. I don't have beef. I've had this useless title of Best Athlete Rapper since 1992, but I'm going to keep it. It doesn't go beyond that. It's all marketing. It's good for him. It's good for me. But when people think it's personal, I've got way too much to be doing to try to be a rapper. However, while this feud went mild in the end, in 2024, Shaq had another one that was much more spicy, and this time it wasn't with an NBA player. After Nikola Jokic won his 3rd MVP award, during a live interview, Shaq immediately told Jokic that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have been the winner.
I thought the SGA should have been the MVP. That's no disrespect to you.
And in typical Jokic manner, the Serbian big man laughed it off, responding that it's his opinion and that he didn't care.
Thank you, Shaq. We don't judge people here, so that's fine. It's your opinion.
However, Shannon Sharpe did care, and he called O'Neal disrespectful towards Jokic during his podcast, also noting that Shaq was probably jealous of Jokic because he won more MVPs than him.
He sees a guy like Nikola Jokic that's not as dominant as him and gets 3 and 4 years. And I think a part of him is envious of that. But he doesn't have anybody to blame but himself.
And then Shaq exploded, writing a long post on Instagram, throwing shots at Shannon, once again saying that he isn't qualified to talk about his accomplishments, since Sharpe wasn't a top 10 player in the NFL. Sharpe tried to cool things off, saying that he was never as good as O'Neal.
I've never professed that I was as great as Shaq.
But he did throw shade at his work ethic, claiming that Shaq didn't use his talent to the fullest.
He didn't work as hard, he didn't train as hard, he didn't eat as well as he should have.
Right.
And Shaq, being Shaq, couldn't let this one die off, and had to have the last word, so he responded with another diss track. Lately, it seems like Shaq is getting in feuds and online beefs every couple of months, which seems kind of strange for a 52-year-old man. But for better or worse, O'Neal has always been a big kid, and has always responded the same way when someone said even mildly bad things about him. When Kobe appeared on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, he said that Shaq would be the GOAT if he had his work ethic, and that they would have won 12 rings.
Who would Shaq be if he had your work ethic? He'd be the greatest of all time. I wish he was in the gym. I would have had 12 rings.
Shaq immediately got offended and started putting up Instagram pictures of his dunks, saying sarcastically that he was really lazy. And it's the same when Barkley confronts him on Inside the NBA, as Shaq almost instantly starts talking about his 4 rings.
I got 3 finals MVP, Chuck.
Because you
Google me, Chuck.
Everybody
Google me,
you were a great
you
player.
see that?
Everybody
Google
know
me.
you were.
So it's safe to say that Shaq's not gonna change, and he'll always meet violence with violence.
Shaq can be petty at times, dude.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Petty. Yeah. I would not kill him.
Yeah.
However, even though Shaq truly might be the king of pettiness, it's hard not to love the guy. Despite his flaws, Shaq has a great personality and a big heart. And the stories of him helping other people and making people happy far outweigh some of the nastiness that comes with his feuds. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.